Okay, for my rhetorical analysis, I did a setting. It starts on page 262, but it's basically when Aram and Dylan were in Turkey and they were going to the bars with their friends, or the club, whatever you want to call it. But I said that, so in the beginning it talks about how they walked past the statue of Mary, and I took that as a symbolic thing, and I said that it symbolizes her passing up her innocence and all of her beliefs from before, from her dad and her history, and kind of passing that to go to the bar, which I think the bar represents a new kind of world for her, a freedom that she never had, that her dad wouldn't want her to have. So I think that's the intention of these couple paragraphs. And then overall, the setting, to describe the setting, it's very descriptive. It's there's imagery. A couple sentences would be. It says, the stonework stained with centuries of lipid cool smoke, the windows darkened and reflecting the violet sky. And it talks about the walls glowed green as though lit from inside, and every corner of the room was filled with plants. So you can imagine the club. And then also there's a couple similes, like it says, others that looked like short palm trees, their leaves like huge wings spread above tables of candles.
Okay, so what I did was choosing a scene that showed conflict between characters, and I chose the scene that happened after Aram came home from spending the night with Dylan. She was very emotional. Her parents knew what had happened, and she went to go talk with her dad, and he was having a lot of internal conflict because it is just very against their religion to sleep with someone before they're married, and she just really disobeyed her parents, and he basically really disowns her, so there's a big conflict there. The intention in this is to show that Aram has really done the unforgivable, and Sinan can't accept her anymore because of that. And then Sinan has ethos because he obviously, he's the one who's having to deal with this as the father, and he's very knowledgeable about their religion and what's accepted and what in that culture people are socially allowed to do and not. And there is logos because as a father, that's never something that you would want your daughter to be doing. Obviously, it's very extreme that he disowns her, but it's something that is very hard to forgive. And then there's pathos because you feel for Aram. She's very emotional, but you also really feel for Sinan because he's trying to do as a parent, use discipline, but he's also caught in the middle because it's his daughter. He says in one point, he needed to rip her hair out, had to knock her teeth down her throat. He wanted to kiss her, rock her to sleep, lay a blanket over her tired body, and let her rest. He's very conflicted about what he should be doing, and I feel like that's something, and that also goes with memory, is relatable, that sometimes we don't know how to react to something. It's so surprising that we're not sure what to do. And the style uses a lot. Sorry. The style uses a lot of descriptive imagery describing this, where this conflict is taking place, and their feelings. So.
Okay, so I picked a rhetorical analysis of the character and internal conflict going on. So my character was Aram, and it was she's in the taxi debating in her mind whether to jump or not, and she eventually jumps at the end of this. And while she's in the taxi, she's has the song that she was listening to with Dylan in her head, I'm not here, this isn't happening. And so she keeps saying that over and over again. So I feel the intention of this is to show that Aram, she didn't have it set in her mind that she was gonna jump right then. She had a conflict, and she didn't want to do it, so she was had remorse or regret for it. apprehension. That's the word. Okay, so she had apprehension about it. Like she like one of it said, the dissolution crept back into her. She couldn't do this. She had made her decision, and now she wouldn't be able to do it. So she didn't want to do it. And then also like pathos. So we feel for her because she feels like this is like the only way out, and that she can't get out of it because like her dad Sinan doesn't like want her there, and she's like been disowned from her family. So she has pathos there. Also, like some of the imagery, like it says, she washed the water, blue now, ripe as a bruise, which is something that like most people, they say like blue like as the sky, like pretty, but it shows how like depressed she was because she says ripe as a bruise. Also, the imagery, she let go, and for a moment she was weightless, tumbling like a bird whose wings had been clipped off. So like when she lost her family, she lost her wings, like as the bird, like she could no longer like live without her family. And also, it was kind of logical, like I guess it's taken out of context that she was running because like the taxi man was chasing her, but like when you put it all together, it wasn't very logical. But yeah, that's...
Okay, and I did a character speech from the same chapter that Ellen did, but it's Irem's. And it's coming right after she left Dylan, and she's returned to her family, and she's trying to talk to her mom, and she uses the repetition of and repeatedly asking for her and asking for forgiveness. And then her father's the one who finally listens to her, and it shows her struggle and remorse for what she did. And there is a lot of logos for, like, it's reasonable that she would be reaching out to her parents in this situation. And then there's also pathos, where we can relate to her and feel bad because she regrets her actions. And so it's logical that she would be pleading for forgiveness because she's still a kid, she's not fully grown up, and the intention is to gain the forgiveness from her parents.
So I did an analysis of the conflict in Sinan's character, especially there's a scene after Rams died during her funeral where he feels very conflicted because, like he said, he points to, like, what's around him. He says the sky was a brilliant blue, gorgeous in its depth and absolute perfection of color. But then later it says the sky should have been raging with clouds and rain. The flowers should have been nothing but knotted thorns. And I think this shows his mindset because really he's very upset about his daughter's death, especially because, as it points out, he blames himself when it says that he killed her. That was certain. She jumped, but really he pushed her off. And then later, in love, you try to kill a daughter to save her. And I think that this is pretty consistent with his character because throughout the entire book, he's always been conflicted about how truly right the things he does because of his culture are. Like, in this case, it would have been like disowning Iram because she slept with Dylan, and because she ran away. And so I think there's a lot of ethos there because I'm not a parent, but I know plenty of parents would be very upset with their kids if they did stuff like that, even if not so extreme.
Okay, so theme is like an intention. We kind of all agree that the intention for the overall book is something along the lines of a girl or any young person rebelling, not necessarily rebelling or going against something that's the ordinary, whether that was specifically culture and parenting in this book, I think, but just the action of wanting to do something different from what's supposed of that time, and how hard it is to deal with the circumstances that come after it.
And like what happens when we all make mistakes, and what happens when you make a mistake and you try to go back and you can't because like it's like permanent, and just the effects of that.
And going off of that, I feel like overall the whole book did have logos because this is similar to something that I think could have happened in the Middle East. I mean, the logos only went so far, though, because I don't know if someone would really go to the point of committing suicide because of having not being accepted by the culture and like just cut that out.
I think-
just
No, I think
No,
what you're saying though is like
but,
the
yeah.
path. Like there is a sense of pathos, whether you want to take it as like a symbolic thing. I mean, like
Yeah.
maybe I wouldn't commit
But
suicide
just,
after
like,
something like
like-
that, but something as long as like is hurting yourself or something that people do every day, like really like cry every day because they made this wrong mistake.
Yeah.
Um,
I like, cause like I see what you're saying, cause like when I was reading this, I was like, okay, would she really like go that far? I mean, like it's just a boy, but like then I'm like, it's so much more than that for her because like of her like of how like modest she has been. So it's like kind of more than that, and it also has to do with like the society. But like I get it, cause I was like myself, I was like, I don't think this is like really could happen.
But even like in our society, there's situations like this where like a girl will get like slut shamed or something and then bullied on social media and she turns to self-harm or something similar.
yeah.
I think there's a real underlying tone of like permanence because when Sinan finds out that Iram and Dylan slept together, like he talks about it as though she's like permanently like damaged or something. And I think in a sense that we people all over the world have those views, not just about sex but about other things as well. We think like we made this mistake and now we'll never be like, clean again.
I feel like there's like a parallelism between like Arem and losing her virginity and she'll never be the same to like the earthquake and how like the town and all the buildings were ruined and like they'll never be the same. So there's that parallelism. Boom.